We're here at Ridgeview High School in Bakersfield, and we're going to be tuning a sound system today. I'm going to show you some key points that you need to know in order to get a better sound out of your sound system. Okay, first thing I noticed is that the hi-hat was very heavy. So what we want to do is subtract before we add. I can see there's only one mic on the snare drum, okay? So what we're looking at is that the highs are anywhere from 6 kilohertz on up for the cymbal. So it's all up here. So the position was here earlier, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit, okay? I think we still need to have the snare drum, so we're going to rule out some higher frequencies by turning it down some, okay? So we're going to subtract before we add. I didn't hear a good articulation out of the vibes over the marimbas, and so this is where I added, because there's really nothing to subtract out of a vibe. Okay, we wanted to hear more articulation. Your articulations, okay, if you look at your sweepable section, okay, where you have all of these hundreds, 200, 800, 2K, this is about where your articulation is, about 1 to 2K. So this is unity gain. Unity gain, if you go back to algebra, if you remember, there is a 0 point in your number line. Okay, this is your 0 point. This means subtracting that is negative, and this is positive. Everything is lined up. If you know here, this is a U for unity, or 0 as well, and this is a U here. If you also look at your bar here, this one doesn't say it, but it should say U here. And that's your unity section. This is where it's all tuned to 0. It's all hooked up to 0. And then if you notice here, usually here you have negative numbers and it goes down to infinitely 0. Okay? So on this vibe, okay, I'm going to hone in on a certain frequency, which is about 1K to 2K. Okay? And I'm just going to try it and see where it's at. And if it needs to go either way, we can sweep it either way. This is just a roundabout, but I'm going to turn it up, okay, so we can get the articulation above other instruments, so we can hear the vibes, okay. As you notice, I haven't turned it up yet. I haven't turned up the channel. I just turned up that one specific frequency that applies to the articulation. That's where it was before. Listen. Now, pick it. All of a sudden, we hear more articulation there. Keep on playing. Keep on going. That's a little bit more, so it's a little bit higher. It's at 2. Where it's at. I got a little ringing. I'm going to turn the highs down a little bit. There you go. Now all of a sudden they're louder. So now this is where we can start turning down. So I'm going to turn this down. I think I might want to just take the trim down a little bit. So I'm going to take the trim off of that. That does affect, I don't know, that does affect, if you take the trim, it's going to also affect this. I don't want to do that. Let me take this down a little bit on the vibes. Okay. Mr. Martin says he wants his marimbas up. This might have to apply the same way, where we might have to take, that's marimba 1. Same way, articulation on it. So I'm just kind of going marimbas and see how this goes. We'll see how this. I'm going to add the articulation to it and see if it brings them up at all. Rob told me he was feeding back at a certain note. Oh. So my guess is it was G, and G is around 250. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, yet turn up the bottom a little bit. This is a low cut filter. Anything below 75 hertz will start to decrease 18 dB per octave. It says that right there. So 18 dB, it's a logarithm. Every 3 dB is half the sound. So that's quite a bit. Per octave, it's 18 dB. It's quite a bit. You're talking, you know, 4. 6 times 3 is 18. So you're talking 6 times the amount there. So, anyway, none of this is low cut. I venture to say there's no frequency on the marimbas or the vibes that are 75 hertz, so I'm going to cut them all. I'm cutting them all. And that's going to help you from against feedback. Any extraneous low notes that are going to be picked up off axis off these microphones are now not going to be picked up because I just cut this low cut filter.